Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wills, Trusts, and More. And of course, I have Eileen Kerlin Walsh with us that's going to share into documents that we should be considering on any of these categories. And today we're going to be talking about ethical wills.
Ethical wills, yes, ethical wills. Not the term you hear quite as often as the legal will. But an ethical will is the story of your life in some ways, the meaning of your life. It's a little journey through your life, a little bubble, certainly not a whole memoir, but it's a little journey through your life with an emphasis on the meaning, the values, the beliefs, the wisdom you have gleaned along the way. An ethical will is an amalgamation of some memoir, some ancestry, just the meaningful life experiences. It's a little bit of your Bible, your inspirational guide, all rolled into one. It's a wonderful document.
Wow. We need to know more about what this is and how that differs from legal and living wills.
Okay. As we've talked about so many times in the show, your legal will is that legal document you want to get in place, which tells who you want your values, your wealth to go to after you pass away and whom you want to take care of that. This ethical will can be thought of as a document, not a legal one, but one that passes along your values as well as your valuables, your wisdom as well as your wealth. So it's really the document that your family has to know what your life has been all about. And actually, it was through the legal will that I discovered ethical wills, because I often find sitting with clients, they wanted to explain. And sometimes I think the media is to blame for this, because you often hear the reading of a will and there's a lot of information in there that we really don't include in legal wills. Families would want to say why a particular member was getting something or why somebody was being left out. They wanted to put explanations or stories into the legal document, and they really don't belong there. So I discovered that ethical wills was a way to get that information in that the client wanted, but not compromise my legal documents. Gotcha. So I would have recommended it for that, but then I discovered that the creation of that ethical will was really valuable to the clients. And when I discovered that that creation process was something they really enjoyed and wanted to do beyond just those couple of items or those couple of stories, I really embraced it. And as you know, Ron, I'm also a personal growth leader. We've talked about that before. And this really area for me was just beautiful because it was a bridge between my two worlds. I'm an estate planning attorney, a personal growth leader, and I'm always looking in this world for what leads to peace and happiness and contentment. And the drafting of an ethical will was the perfect convergence.
Well, that really is like a memoir or a heritage document.
It's very, very much like that, and it certainly includes element of that, but there is an important difference, and the difference is the intent. Often people write the story of their lives and the ancestry, that it not be lost, but the intent of an ethical will is slightly different. Yes, it includes those things, but we intend for the meaning of those stories and the values and lessons learned from those stories to inform and bless and enrich the lives of those who read it. So the intent is to pass something along just beyond the story itself.
Okay, and then how do you write an ethical will?
How do you write it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have your client actually put notes on and then you help develop this?
I can do this in two ways. If it's with one of my estate planning clients, and they have certain things that they want their family to know about, I encourage that as a side-by-side document. We never want stories in the legal will. We never want that legal will compromised. So if they want to write the legal will, the ethical will alongside their legal will, I will absolutely go through with them and show them how to do that. What has happened is that the client's appetite is whetted when they understand what this document is and what it can do, that they often want to write more. Now, an ethical will can be just a couple sentences, or it can be entire letter, it can be 20 pages, it can become a document. People have even done DVDs with these documents. And I have also done ethical wills with clients now and with my personal growth audience who are not thinking about the legal side of it at all. So depending, to answer your question, on how or why someone came to the document would be how I would guide them towards writing it. But when it comes to the how, I have put together a booklet to help anyone who's interested in this document, be it for estate planning or not, how to put it together. And I've broken it down into 6 sections, because the thing with starting to write about your life's journey, and I bet you can anticipate this, the danger is becoming absolutely overwhelmed. This is your life, your whole life. Sometimes estate planning is overwhelming because you just have to pull the things of your life together. Now it's your entire life story. So it can be so overwhelming to the point of being off-putting. So what I have done in my workshops and in my booklet for ethical wills is take that process down into a 6-step process. Make it as simple and as easy, and just get the highlights. Now, in these 6 sections, which I'll go through with you in a minute, you can get the essence of your life there and the values. If you want to go beyond that, then you can go out and plan that book or plan that work. But if you decide that this is going to be so big that it can't be contained in these 6 sections, then the danger, and I think for 90% of the people this is true, it doesn't get written at all. It's just too cumbersome. So I have devised, and I have taught workshops on this over at the center and indeed in other places, but we take a weekend, maybe a Friday and a Saturday. I'm not saying that this can be done in a minute. It's your life and its meaning. That's not something that can be trivialized, but we can take the essence of it and divide it into these 6 sections. And the first section is a salutation, whom you're addressing it to. And these are often addressed to children, but it can be addressed to your family in general, your community, your church, the world, whomever you want to get the message to. So it doesn't have to be to children. Often it is, as with estate planning. So the first section is how we open it, then your past and present history. So we do have some ancestry, we do have certainly some family stories. Then we move on to meaningful life experiences, and we try to pluck a few that really are going to be illustrative. And then we move on to your personal values and beliefs. So that's what we're getting to. All these stories, all these experiences, what have they meant? What have they meant to you, and what do you want them to mean to your family? So we get through these, then we move on to hopes for the future. What do you hope for the rest of your future, as well as the future of those who come after you, as well as those who are going to read this? And then we concluded. And when I teach a workshop in this, I have lots and lots of samples and prompts and quotes, so that the process isn't overwhelming.
Okay.
And one of the things, Ron, that I have found just amazing about this process, and why I find it so exciting, is that often with estate planning too this happens, but people start out the process thinking only about those who are going to come after. And then they find throughout the creative process that they really enjoy it themselves, that this is the first time they've ever really reflected on their life. And that's why I think it's so important. Your life is important. The meaning of it is important. We so often glean from others what their lives mean. We take the crumbs from the tables of celebrities and personalities, but now it's your stage. You're on the stage, and the only thing that matters is your life. And when people embrace that, they really find importance from it, and they really reflect on their life in a way they haven't before. And when the finished document then becomes their inspirational guide, we all need reminding of the meaning and purpose of our life. And if we draft this document, then when we go back to it on the gray day, or the weather, or the economy, or whatever is getting in the way of you remembering how wonderful this experience is, or what it means, or what you want to mean to others, this is a great way for you to go back and remind yourself. So that's the secret of ethical wills. It's every bit as valuable for the one who creates it as those for whom it's created initially for.
Now, when should one want to create create a document?
Well, the answer...
What time of their life?
What time of their life? Well, the answer for me is always going to be now. Now. Now, when do people really start thinking about this? Sometimes we don't even know about such a document. We can really create this document at any stage in our life. What is typical? Big milestones, births, deaths, marriages, remarriages, the birth of daughters, grandchildren, that sort of thing. There can be the big milestones. What's also very typical is often end of life. Illness, something big that triggers you to really think of what the meaning of it all is. And sometimes people have gone through that illness really reflected on the meaning of their life, and then come out the other side really maybe a deeper, richer person. So we really can create it at any time. Reflection on our life is valuable at any time. I have worked with high school students who have found value to deciding what their life about. Indeed, I know sometimes high schools have the students create their own eulogy, maybe sometimes to get them to reflect on what the value of their life is and maybe what their behaviors are. So any time is a good time. What's often typical are the big milestones, the big achievements, or sometimes when something really awful happens. And when I encourage the writing of these wills, I say, yes, it is a love letter for your family, but it's not a Valentine. It's not just all the good stuff. Your life has its scars and its warts. All of ours have. But sometimes the deepest meaning is in those experiences.
The trials and tribulations of life that you experienced. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what we learned from those and how we got past them. Because if we only glean the roses, what are our children, our grandchildren, or our church members going to think when they go through the difficult times? So as hard as it is to address those things, even harder to think about and talk about them, getting that into the document is as valuable as the good times, the achievements, the promotions. Those times when we fail are every bit as important as the times when we climbed.
So what we're really saying is anyone and everyone should think about that. There is no set age group or right?
Absolutely, Ron. It's valuable for anyone to do it at any time. And if you are a teacher or you have a women's group or you have a men's group or a church group or a community that gets together for any reason, this really would be a wonderful thing for you to think about for your group. You could all write your ethical will. Now the term it sounds a little staid really, but it's a 3,500-year-old term. This was originally a Jewish male tradition. The dying patriarch would tell his family what his life has meant and what he wanted them to do. And it came away from the Jewish tradition, it came away from the oral tradition and got out into the hands of others. And when it got onto women's hands, whoa, as you know, what we do with things, you know, we're often the memory keepers, the memory vessels, the storytellers. So then it really blossomed. So it can be old, young, religious follower or non. It can be woman, man, child, even younger children. I mean, I have read my ethical will to my boys and they glean from it. So I certainly haven't kept mine for that day, you know, when everyone's sad in a church. And that's something I have found with my clients too, or when we do workshops in this. Everyone just loves the document. They're so happy with it. They want to share it. And I say, do share it right away. Let your family know what they mean to you and what your life has meant. There's no need to keep it until after death. And the more time and more effort people put into creating this document, the more likely they are to want to share it. So it doesn't have to be just for after death. Although, of course, sometimes that is what people have in mind when they start the creation process.
Okay. Do you have a sample or two that you would like to share with the public?
I would. I have, as I've often told you, Ron, I walk my talk. So every estate planning document that I ask my clients to create, I have created myself. An ethical will that I think everyone should create, I have created my own. So I have a couple of brief little samples from my ethical will for some of these sections that I will share with you.
Okay.
If you could just give me a second. And the first of these is from the second section, which would be past and present history. And this is just a little sample from when I was growing up. I grew up one of 12 children on a small farm in Ireland. And one of my favorite memories is my mother and father always talking. Mommy and Daddy were always talking, always, that sound. Even now, when I go home and sleep in my childhood room, I wake to the sound of them talking in the kitchen. It is one of those sounds as familiar and old as all my life, like my father reciting Sam McGee or the Apostles' Creed in Mass, sounds that have worn a groove in my mind and are awash with ritual, stability, and continuity.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'll share another little section from my own ethical will. This is on meaningful life experiences. Once in Paris, after having spent the summer in Italy and traveled through Switzerland and Germany to France, I was sitting on a plane. I was reading a book from Shakespeare and Company, which is a famous little bookstore on the left bank frequented by writers on their journey through Paris. And I just had a moment of pure illumination, pure joy. It was an absolute physical sensation. And I wrote in my journal, at that moment on that plane, if I die now, if this plane should crash, I have had such a deep, rich, meaningful life experience. I could not say I have not had enough. I was 30 years old.
Ooh, you sure logged in a lot of information about your experiences and your feelings. It's like an open diary.
It is. It is. And that's why I do encourage that we be as open and as honest as possible. Now, we also try to be as positive as possible. We don't want the Valentine, we do want your story, but we do, and I really want I want this to be valuable to my clients and my audience. So I want them to try to view everything through the lens of positivity. So one of the things we ask people to try to avoid, although it's a unique document and it's entirely yours, but one of the things we ask our clients to avoid is admonishing, or maybe bringing up old hurts or anything like that. We try to steer away from it. Maybe forgiveness if that's what you have, and if it's not, then to not scold or admonish. So we really want to try to keep this as positive for you as possible and as positive as those who read it.
Okay.
And I'll share
Go
one
ahead.
more
Go ahead.
sample. And I have written my ethical will to my 4 little sons. When I wrote my first ethical will, I had 2 little boys, and then I updated it because I now have 4 little boys. And that's actually another thing that we didn't talk about, Ron. Your ethical will, being the meaning and purpose and story of your life, can be updated. So, I mean, I have updated mine twice, and I wrote the first one only in 07 or 08. Actually, maybe even earlier, because my son was born in 06, excuse me, yes. So at any point in our lives, we can look back at what we knew then and maybe update it with what we know now, because we're always growing, we're always learning. So whatever stage in our life that we write it, we might review it every 5 or every 10 years, or when something big happens, a death or a divorce or a marriage or a relationship can really change our worldview, how we look at things. So updating it is important too. So I updated mine to include my 4 boys, not just my first 2. And this is what I wrote, part of what I wrote for them when it comes to section 5, hopes for the future. Family is where we begin and end. Mommy always warned us never to fall out. We fought, yes, but we were never permitted to stop speaking, me as one of my siblings. And we carry this still. Though we have had many difficult times with each other, we 12 siblings have never fallen out permanently. And I ask the same of you. You boys are as close as it is possible for humans to be. You share the same ancestry, gender, parents, childhood, language, friends, neighbor, home. This creates a bond so deep it can see you through anything life shows up with. And this bond will link you to us and each other for eternity.
Wow, that is very nicely put together.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned workshops. Can you share with the viewers what kind of workshops that you are putting on?
Absolutely.
And for what kind of people you typically...
I will take any flock that comes to me from wherever. As you know, Ron, I absolutely love to instruct, to teach, to pass on whatever wisdom I have learned, whatever I have learned through my education. So just as with estate planning, if one person wants to do an ethical will, come to me, I'll show you exactly how to do it. I have a little workbook, and I'm more than happy to pass that along. In fact, if I see an opportunity at all with all of my estate planning clients, and many of you out there know that this is the case, I will encourage them to write an ethical will. And if I see interest at all, I will include this book that I have put together on how to write one with lots of samples, and even what I have done with my workbook is that I've left blank spaces after each section just to get you started. And then at the end, you pull all that information that you have in each of the sections together. So it really is a way to get this done. And as with every other project in life, that's the most important thing. Get it done. It's better finished than perfect. Now, if you do with the workbook put your estate plan together, and then find, well, this is now a 10-page letter. I really have so much more. Because when you go into each of those sections, of course you have more than 10 pages. It's your life. But if you get that letter together, yes, go ahead and start the book. But if the book never gets finished, the letter has been. So I'm very strict in getting this letter finished first. And this can be put onto a CD. It can be read on a DVD. So getting the letter done first is important, and then we can get fancy. So I have the workbook available. I can work one-on-one with you on your ethical will. And what works terrific is if you get together with a bunch of your friends, and this is getting back to you if you have any kind of a group that you're part of, or a bunch of your friends or your church members or anything, and you want me to give a workshop in this, I will be happy to do so. I can give the workshop at my office, or I can go to your center. We have very successfully taught this workshop over at the center here in Payless, and we've done it over the period of a Friday night and a Saturday. So during that time, I have marshaled everyone through each of the 36 sections. Then we have put all the sections together into a letter on beautiful archival paper, and then we've had a sharing circle, and that has been so powerful. Lots of tears, yes, but everyone then has shared their ethical will with everyone else, and we've all learned and grown and cried with each other over all of these life's experience, and it is an absolutely beautiful thing. So I'm more than happy to share my workbook to help you one-on-one, or to teach a workshop or even a couple-hour seminar. Whatever time you have and whatever group you have, I'll come to you or you can come to me. I would just love to help you get this done.
Okay, and for the viewers that are really interested in finding out more or maybe discussing your needs with Eileen, she's at 11301 South Harlem. And her number is at the bottom of the screen, 708-448-5169.
Could I just finish with one last little example? Thank you,
Ron.
Ron. Justice Mary Ann McMurrow, who was the only Supreme Court Justice leader on the Illinois Supreme Court, died recently. Now, she was an amazing woman, an absolute trailblazer. I'm a little biased, of course, because she's a woman and a lawyer, but she also spoke at my law school commencement. But she passed away recently, and she had just this short little piece of writing on her funeral card. And when I read that, I thought, this is the absolute essence of what an ethical will is, and it was so beautiful, and I kept it, and I'd love to share it with the audience, if I may.
Sure.
Every wonderful delight, thrilling experience and emotion that life has had to offer has been mine. Recall me as the mother, the sister, the friend who shared your laughter, tears, and dreams. Save your sadness and sorrow for those who leave before they taste all the fine chocolate desserts of the world. I've lived a goodly span of years. I've loved a man. I've cradled a daughter in my arms and walked with her hand in my own. I will live in you.
Wow, that's great.
Beautiful.
Beautifully written.
Simple.
Yes.
Short. The absolute essence of that successful woman's life is in those few words. And all of you have that essence. Everyone's life is important.
Has, yes.
Everyone's
and they're all different.
life, yes. And I will tell you how often someone has said that maybe their grandfather left them a legacy. And if you say, well, would you rather have that few $1,000s, or would you rather have the story of your grandfather's life, their days on the farm, how they came over from Europe? Time after time, people say, I would rather have the story. This is absolutely true. Your story, your values are every bit as important to your family as your valuables, and they want to know that, and then you too will grow and learn and be amazed by your own story. So do write an ethical will. Call it what you will, but get your story, the meaning, the purpose of your life into words, and you will be enriched beyond your own imagination.
What an interesting topic. Very good. And again, Eileen's number is at the bottom of the screen. Give her a call if you're interested, and she will talk to you and go on from there. Eileen, thank you again.
Ron, thank you, as always. I appreciate the opportunity.
We will see you again next month with another interesting topic.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good day.